Well, the time has come now for me to split these crankcases, and I'm going to replace the main bearings, although there's no up and down play. When it was on the bike I checked the shafts and there's about 43 thou vent flows, and but there was no movement at all in the main bearings, but I am going to replace those. And also the big end checked out okay, and the new Heberlite piston I've got came with its own gudgeon pin, which is an absolute perfect fit in the small end there, so I'm happy with that. So the first job is to get it off the stand and onto my little holder there, and see how far we get with it today. Well, I've managed to get the cam followers and the spindles out. I've got this one to do yet, but to get this outer race of the main bearing out, there are I don't know if you can see them, but there are two little holes there where you can put a punch in and punch them out. But I'm going to turn down a little tool which I can press, see if I can press it out on the bearing press sooner than go hammering at it. So I'll give that a try. Well, I've checked the size with the drill bit and it's actually 6mm, fits in nicely. So I'll make a little tool with a 6mm end on to try and push those out on the bearing press. Well, I've tried to press them out on the bearing press and I didn't have much control over it, so I've decided to just, I've wound it up and I've decided to just see if I can punch them out. It is going. There it goes. Well, the next part of the restoration will be the bottom end of the engine, and I've got the crankcases back from the Vapor Blast guy. He's made a fabulous job, like brand new. new rocker covers. I've got new bearings, new Heberlite piston. The little end's okay and the big end's okay on the crank, so that's fine. So that's the next stage. I'll be working on this over the next week or so. Well, before I build up the crankcases with the crank and everything else, I decided to loosely bolt it together, put it into the frame, because I want to make new studs and bolts for the whole thing, because the ones that came out, well, they're a bit of a hodgepodge, and I'll show you those in a moment. Well, this is the remainder of the bolts that are left. Some of them are actually on the bike at the moment, but as you can see, combination of studs and bolts. This is a piece of threaded bar, I think, and the space is a little bit too long now because the powder coating is so much heavier than the paint job that they just don't fit properly, and I don't want to like force them in, so I'm going to ease those ever so slightly, just take a few thou off. These are the small ones. I've got a whole bunch of 3/8 10mm 1/2 inch stainless steel rods which I'm going to make the new bolts out of, the new studs out of. Well, quite a while ago I bought a whole bunch of these 5/16 by 26 TPI cycle thread nuts, and they've got a nice little camber on them, and they look great when they're on the bike, but I've only got 2 left. But I've bought a whole bunch of these, but they just got square shoulders on them, so I'm going to I've got a little tool that I think I can put that camber on. I'm going to set it up in the lathe and knock out a few of these and see how it all goes, but they do look so much better on the bike. Well, I've fixed the stud into the little collar chuck I've got there, and it's just a case of spinning these nuts on. Could have picked a better stud actually, but they go on. There we go, and that's a little tool I've got. And I've set up the gauge down here, so when I get back up to 0, that's exactly where I need it to be. So I'm going to give it a try, see how they all come out. Well, here they are, the nuts all finished. There's 20 of them. This little one on the end is the one from the last batch I bought on eBay. They're still available on eBay. They're £21.30 for 10. So there's 42 with the postage is about £48. So a bit of a saving as well. But my pal thinks I'm over the top, but they look great when they're on the bike. And it's taken me 45 minutes to make those. Well, I've got the crankcases in position now, just loosely mounted. That was to enable me to sort out all the studs and things. I've had the gearbox in and back out again, and that's going to be okay. This is the arrangement down here for the starter motor, which is mounted under the gearbox. So I've got all the studs cut to length now. All I need to do is cut the threads on the end, which I'll be doing in a moment. So it's a little bit more progress. It's coming on nicely. Well, I've got all the studs cut now out of stainless steel, and I'm just about to start on the threads, which are 26 TPI, and there's an inch of thread on the end of each stud. But I don't know if you can see it, but there's a slight camber on the end of the studs, on all of them actually. That's how Bsa made them. So I'm going to see if I can just reproduce that little camber on the end. Might make all the difference. So I'm about to do that now. Well, that's a perfect fit, and I'm going to do them all this way. It's 3 light passes with the single point tool, and then I finish them off with the die. I've got a high-speed steel die there. That's 3/8 B26, and it just leaves me that perfect thread. So takes a bit of the guesswork out on the final passes, so that's how I'm going to do them all. Oops, lost my nut. Well, I've done all the undercuts on the new studs. I've actually threaded one of them, which worked out fine. These are some pieces of stainless, the blanks for these, for the spaces on the front, and these little ones as well. And I'm ready to cut the threads now, so I'll be doing that soon. Well, I'm about to cut another thread here, and the way I'm doing it now, I was watching Adam Booth last night, and he was cutting his threads more or less the same way as I'm doing mine now, few exceptions. He's keeping the half nuts engaged all the time and reverses the lathe, but I do the best way I've found for myself is to do approximately 3 passes, sometimes 4 light passes with the single point, and then I finish off with a 26 TPI 3/8 die in here, using this compound here, for the simple reason the die struggles a bit with the stainless steel rod, and when it's finished it gives me more or less a perfect thread. I'll show you that now in a moment, but that's the plan. 3 light passes, then finish off with the die, and that should do the trick. And I just use regular cutting oil for the single point thread, and then I switch over to this MCC compound when I use the die. I'll show you that. And as you can see, that's a perfect fit, no movement at all in the thread. But if I try to do that with just using the die, it struggles, and quite often it jams up and spins the rod in the chuck. But doing it this way, 3 light passes and then use the die, I get a good result every time. It takes a bit longer, but nothing gets messed up, and I'm happy with that. Well, I've got these almost finished now. These were all done using well, 5 light passes and then using the split die to finish them off, and they've all turned out well, perfect threads actually. I've got 3 more to do, but I'm going to go back to using the threading dial on these just by way of a change, and see how we get on with those. Well, it's taken me a full day to make all these, a little bit longer actually, but as you can see, they're all finished nicely now. I don't know if you can see that compared to the old ones. A nice finish on them. All I've got to do now is trim the spaces to the exact length, which I can't really get until I've got everything bolted up, so I'll be doing that next. I'm quite happy with the way they've turned out. They're fine. Well, this is the finished job now. All the bolts are in, all the studs are in and just nipped up. I've made some stainless steel spaces here, so there's some small ones around the side you can't quite see, but everything's nipped up, and 1.5 to 2 threads showing on the nuts, which looks okay. And that's all completed now, so next job is to take it out again and get working on this bottom end. I've done the head and barrel, but I need to be working on this now, so that's the next stage.